Her gloved hands sliced through the humid air of the auction yard, outbidding the tobacco merchant by a whisper. The youngest slave, a boy barely past his 12th year, with skin like polished mahogany and eyes that held storms, became hers in that instant. Whispers rippled among the crowd as the chains clinked loose, but Amelia Hawthorne ignored them all. She had not planned this, not today. The carriage jolted over rutted roads back to Hawthorne Plantation, the boy silent beside her. Dust devils danced in the afternoon haze, and cicadas thrummed a relentless rhythm. Amelia studied him sidelong. His frame was slight, clothes threadbare, yet his posture carried an unnatural poise, as if he balanced on the edge of revelation. "What is your name, child?" she asked, voice steady. He hesitated, lips parting. "Levi, ma'am." The word hung, too precise, too measured for one so young from the quarters. If this tale has you leaning in already, take a moment. Subscribe now, share with a friend, and drop a comment below telling us where you're watching from today. Your support keeps these stories unfolding. The grand oak doors of the mansion swung open under the butler's bow. Inside, polished floors gleamed under crystal chandeliers, a world of lace curtains and silver candelabras that Levi's gaze devoured in flickers. Amelia led him to the servants' wing, past parlors where portraits of stern ancestors glowered. "You'll tend the library," she instructed. "Dust the volumes, polish the globes. No wandering." He nodded, but his jaws twitched as if tracing invisible lines. That evening, as shadows lengthened, she found him there, perched on a ladder, a leather-bound tome open in his lap. Not dusting, reading. Colonel Elias Hawthorne returned from Baton Rouge 2 days later, his boots echoing like judgments through the hall. Tall, with a mustache like forged iron and eyes that dissected men on battlefields, he commanded the plantation with the same precision he had led regiments. "What's this?" he barked, spotting Levi shelving books. Amelia stepped forward. "A purchase from the yard. Quick hands for the library, the others are too rough." Elias grunted, circling the boy like a hawk. Levi met his stare without flinching, a spark that made the air thicken. "See, he earns his keep," the colonel said, turning away. But Amelia caught it, the boy's knuckles whitening on the ladder rung. Nights blurred into routine. Levi moved like a shadow, anticipating her needs, fresh ink before she asked, volumes on Creole history aligned just so. Yet oddities mounted. One dawn, she discovered a scrap of paper in his palette, elegant script, quoting passages from Montesquieu. Forbidden words for field hands. "Where did you learn this?" she demanded one afternoon, cornering him amid towering shelves. Levi's breath caught. "Stories from the wind, ma'am. Whispers that travel." His evasion coiled tension in her chest. She pressed no further, but watched sharper. The library became their silent arena. Amelia, widowed young before marrying Elias, had buried herself in books to escape the plantation's isolation. Now, Levi's presence stirred dust from old longings. He polished a brass astrolabe, murmuring calculations under his breath. She paused mid-page. "You know stars?" A nod. "Positions, ma'am, how they shift." Elias dismissed such talk as parlor tricks, but Amelia sensed layers. During supper one evening, the colonel recounted brigade maneuvers from the Mexican campaign. Levi, serving wine, poured without spill, then faltered. "The ford at Buena Vista, crossed under moonlight, sir." Elias's fork halted. "How would you know that?" Levi recovered swiftly. "Overheard traders, sir." The table fell quiet, silverware scraping like secrets unearthed. Doubt gnawed at Amelia. She began sifting records in the study, ledgers yellowed with ink from decades past. Names blurred, purchases, births in the quarters. Levi's arrival predated the auction. The seller had acquired him from a river trader up from New Orleans. Whispers from the house staff trickled in. Cook murmured of a boy matching his description, vanished from a Charleston packet years ago. Educated? Free-born, some said. Amelia's pulse quickened. What past did he shield so fiercely? Tension peaked on a storm-lashed evening. Thunder rattled windows as Elias retired early, gout flaring. Amelia retreated to the library, candle flickering. Levi was there, hunched over a hidden drawer in the desk, her private one. He froze as light caught him. "Ma'am." Papers scattered, letters, faded photographs. One portrait slipped free, a young man, features eerily like Levi's, arm linked with a woman whose eyes mirrored Amelia's own. Her breath seized. "Who are you, truly?" He straightened, storm in his gaze matching the one outside. "Someone who remembers what was taken." She snatched the portrait. The man was her brother, Theo, lost at sea a dozen years prior, presumed gone forever. The date on the back, Charleston, 1842. Levi's age aligned too neatly. "Speak!" she commanded, voice a whip. He exhaled, walls crumbling. "I am Theo's son, ma'am, born free in the north after he fled south for adventure. Kidnappers took me at the docks, sold down river like cargo." Proof tumbled from his pocket. A locket, engraved with Theo's initials, chain snapped from struggle. Amelia's world tilted. Elias's campaigns had skirted those ports. Coincidences frayed, but deeper shadows loomed. Elias knew the river traders, debts settled in flesh, favors called. Had he turned a blind eye? Or worse? Levi's eyes hardened. "Your husband, he bid on me once before, veiled as charity. Recognized me tonight at supper. That's why the questions sharpened." Amelia recoiled. The colonel's grunt at the table replayed. Possession, not surprise. She clutched the locket, threads of betrayal weaving tight. Dawn crept in, grey and unforgiving. Levi stood by the window, gaze distant. "I hid to survive, ma'am. Truth would unmake this house." Amelia paced, mind racing through Ledger's ghosts. Elias stirred upstairs, boots thumping. She faced the boy. No, the young man forged by loss. "We unravel this together," she whispered. But as footsteps neared, a knock shattered the air. The butler. "Colonel requests you both, urgently." Elias waited in the parlor, a pistol case open on the table, not loaded, but gleaming with intent. His eyes bored into Levi. Boy knows too much. Time to decide his place. Amelia's heart hammered. The past Levi hid was no mere orphan's tale. It threatened the Hawthorne Empire's foundations, and now it pulled her into its vortex. What secrets would spill next? If you're hooked on this unraveling mystery, smash that subscribe button like for more cinematic twists, share with someone who loves edge-of-your-seat stories, and comment your guess. What past does Levi truly carry? Stay tuned. Eleanor Ashford watched Levi from the veranda as he unloaded the last crate of cotton seeds, his movements precise, almost too fluid for a boy of 16. The sun dipped low over the Louisiana bayou, casting long shadows that twisted like secrets across the manicured lawn. She had bought him on impulse at the market in New Orleans, the youngest lot in a line of hollow-eyed souls, his gaze steady where others faltered. Now, in the quiet of Ashford Plantation, that steadiness unnerved her. He straightened, wiping sweat from his brow with a forearm scarred faintly, not from fields, but something sharper, deliberate. Eleanor sipped her tea, the porcelain cool against her palm. "Levi," she called softly. He approached without haste, eyes downcast but alert, like a deer sensing the hunter's breath. "Yes, ma'am." His voice carried no drawl, no deferent slur, crisp, educated edges that clashed with the ragged tunic. She set the cup down. Those scars. How did they come by them? He paused, just a heartbeat too long. "Work accident, ma'am. Long ago." The lie hung between them, thin as mist. Eleanor had seen field scars before, broad, angry welts from whips or thorns. These were E-lines, parallel, like the work of a blade in careful hands. She nodded, dismissing him, but her mind raced. That night, As the house settled into creaks and whispers, she slipped into the attic where she kept her late husband's war papers. Colonel Ashford had spoken little of his campaigns, only that they left marks deeper than skin. Downstairs, Levi moved through the darkened kitchen, a lantern's glow his only companion. He pulled a small tin from beneath a loose floorboard, jers trembling as he pried it open. Inside lay a folded letter, edges frayed, ink faded but legible. He traced the words, mouthing them silently. "Your mother waits in Philadelphia. Trust no one south of the Mason-Dixon." The paper crinkled under his touch. He had carried it across states, hidden in his mouth during auctions, a talisman against forgetting. Eleanor's footsteps echoed faintly above. He froze, sliding the tin back. She descended the stairs in her nightrobe, candle in hand, drawn by an instinct she couldn't name. The house held its breath. In the hall, their paths crossed, her light spilling over his shadowed form. "Can't sleep, Levi." Her voice was even, probing. "Memories, ma'am. They keep a man wakeful." As she stepped closer, noting the ink smudge on his thumb, fresh. What sort of memories demand such care at midnight? His jaw tightened. One's best left buried. The next morning, tension coiled tighter. Levi worked the stables alone, brushing the colonel's prize stallion with strokes that spoke of familiarity, not servitude. Eleanor observed from the barn door, her son Thomas lingering nearby, 16 and spoiled, eyeing the new hand with jealousy. "Mother, why him? We have plenty." "Because he sees what others miss," she replied, her gaze fixed on Levi, whispering to the horse in a language that sounded like French Creole mixed with something northern, precise, urban. Thomas snorted. "He don't belong. Look at his hands. Soft, like a houseboy's gone wrong." Eleanor silenced him with a look. Later, she found Levi mending a saddle, stitching with thread he must have scavenged. The needlework was exquisite, ornamental, the kind taught in parlours, not paddocks. "Where did you learn that?" she asked, holding up the leather. "From my kin, ma'am, before the hard times." Kin. The word lingered. That evening, at supper, with Thomas sullen and the overseer droning about yields, Eleanor tested him. She placed a book on the table, Shakespeare pilfered from the colonel's library. "Read this passage, Levi." Aloud. The overseer chuckled. Thomas smirked. Levi's eyes flicked to the page. His voice filled the room, clear, rhythmic. "To be or not to be? That is the question." No stumble, no accent marring the verse. Silence crashed down. The overseer sputtered. "Boy's been taught? By who?" Eleanor waved him off. "Enough!" But inside, questions swirled. Who was this boy, hiding sonnets behind silence? Nights blurred into suspicion. Levi avoided her gaze more, worked faster, vanished into the quarters at dusk. Eleanor pored over her husband's journals by lamplight. One entry caught her. Raid on Yankee Camp, 1862. Took a prisoner. Boy, claimed French blood, eyes like storms. Escaped in the night, left this behind. Clipped to the page. A locket, engraved with L.M. Levi Moreau. The dates aligned. He'd be that age. She confronted him at dawn, by the river's edge where fog clung like a shroud. Levi knelt, filling buckets back to her. "Turn around, Levi. Or should I say, Levi Moreau?" He stilled, water dripping steadily. Slowly he rose, facing her. No fear, only resignation. "Ma'am, the locket. The escape, my husband's prisoner." Words tumbled out, sharp as accusations. His eyes met hers fully for the first time, grey, piercing. "Your husband took more than trinkets that night. He took my freedom." Eleanor recoiled but held ground. "You're no field slave. What are you truly?" A wind stirred the cypress branches. Levi's voice dropped low. "Son of a Union spy. Mother sent north from New Orleans before the lines hardened. Father caught, parted early. I hid in plain sight, auction to auction, waiting for a path north." The revelation settled heavy. Eleanor saw it now. The poise, the literacy, the scars from self-inflicted marks to age his hands blend in. Why tell me? You bought me for a reason. Saw through the veil. He glanced upstream, toward freedom's whisper. But trust breaks chains slow. She hesitated, the plantation's weight pressing. Thomas watched from afar, the overseer barking orders. Betrayal could shatter everything, her status, her home. Yet Levi's gaze held no demand, only a quiet challenge. Days stretched taut. Eleanor tested him further, slipping him maps at night, coded in laundry folds. He pored over them in secret, plotting. Thomas grew suspicious, trailing Levi, whispering to the overseer. One evening, a confrontation brewed in the yard. Thomas cornered Levi by the smokehouse. "You think you're clever, mother's pet." Levi stood tall. "Just doing my work, young master." Thomas shoved him. "Liar! I saw you with her books." The scuffle was brief, Levi restraining, not striking. Eleanor arrived, pulling Thomas back. "Enough! He's mine to manage!" But the seed of doubt sprouted. Whispers spread among the hands. Levi worked on, his secret now halved, tension thrumming like a bowstring. If this tale's gripping you with every hidden layer, hit that subscribe button now, drop a like for these cinematic reveals, share it with a friend who craves real suspense, and comment below, would you risk it all for the truth? Keep watching. One stormy afternoon, thunder rumbling like distant cannons, Eleanor found the tin in the kitchen, left careless in haste. The letter spilled out. Philadelphia. Her heart pounded. The Colonel's old contacts, Union sympathizers in town, could verify. But risk exposure? She pocketed it, sought Levi in the fields. Rain lashed down, blurring lines between master and man. "This path you're on," she said over the roar, "it ends in ruin, for both." He met her eyes, rain tracing his scars. "Or rebirth, ma'am. Some pasts demand reckoning." That night, as lightning cracked, a rider arrived. Overseer's kin, rough from the docks. "Heard tales, Miss Ashford. Boy's no slave. Yankee blood." Thomas beamed beside him. The house ignited in accusations. Eleanor stood firm. "My property. My choice." But Levi slipped away in the chaos, toward the bayou's embrace. Eleanor watched from the window, torn. Had she bought a slave or unleashed a ghost? The overseer rallied men, lanterns bobbing like fireflies in pursuit. Levi's trail vanished into the mist, footsteps swallowed. Eleanor clutched the letter, her own past unraveling. The Colonel's secrets, her loneliness. They mirrored his. Dawn broke grey, searchers empty-handed. Weeks passed. Whispers faded, then a package arrived. Anonymous, postmarked North. Inside, the locket, repaired, and a note. "Gratitude, L.M." Eleanor smiled faintly, slipping it into her pocket. The plantation endured, but changed, quieter, haunted by what escaped. Thomas hardened, the overseer grumbled, but Eleanor walked taller. She had glimpsed a world beyond chains, and in releasing one truth, freed her own. The bayou whispered on, carrying secrets downstream. Days blurred into weeks as Eleanor returned to the plantation house, the weight of Thomas's revelation settling like mist over the fields. He wasn't just any slave. His whispered story under the moss-draped oaks revealed faded papers from a distant harbor, marking him as a freeman's son, stolen away in the dead of night during a raid years ago. The Colonel's ledgers hid purchases from shadowy traders, but Thomas's eyes held memories of a life before irons, lessons from a tutor in New Orleans, fragments of a family scattered by greed. Eleanor had bought him on impulse, the youngest at auction, his defiant gaze cutting through the crowd. Now, that gaze mirrored her own buried regrets. She moved carefully, avoiding the Colonel's study where maps of expansion sprawled like veins across the desk. Whispers among the hands grew bolder. Thomas worked the lighter tasks now, mending fences under her watchful eye, his hands steady despite the scars that told silent tales. The overseer paced the verandas, his grumbles turning to sidelong glances, but Eleanor's quiet authority held. She slipped notes into Tomas's palm during evening rounds, scraps of law from a Charleston contact, words about manumission clauses buried in state codes. Each exchange built a fragile bridge, tension coiling in the humid air. If this tale has you on the edge of your seat, hit that subscribe button, share with a friend, and drop a comment below telling us where you're watching from. Let's build this community together. The colonel noticed the shift first during supper, his fork pausing mid-air as he eyed the empty chair where the overseer usually sat. "Something's amiss in the quarters," he muttered, voice low, like distant thunder. Eleanor poured his bourbon steadily, her pulse quickening. "Just efficiencies, dear. The hands respond better to fairness." He grunted, but his gaze lingered on her longer that night, probing. Thomas, meanwhile, etched plans in the dirt behind the smokehouse, routes north through the bayou, names of sympathetic planters who turned blind eyes for coin. Eleanor memorized them, her nights filled with maps drawn from memory, heart racing at every creak of the floorboards. Tension peaked under a harvest moon. The overseer cornered Thomas by the stables, whip coiled like a serpent. "You think you're special now, boy? Stirring trouble?" Thomas stood tall, jaw set, reciting lines Eleanor had drilled, rights under the code, proof of free birth tucked in his shirt. The overseer lunged, but Eleanor emerged from the shadows, lantern high. "Enough. He's under my protection." The man's face twisted, but he backed away, muttering threats to the colonel. That night, Eleanor confronted her husband in the parlor, the air thick with unspoken storms. "James, this plantation thrives on loyalty, not fear." She slid the papers across the table, forged but convincing, attesting to Thomas's manumission upon her purchase, a loophole she'd woven with help from a discreet attorney in Baton Rouge. The colonel's face darkened, jers drumming the wood. "You're meddling in matters beyond you, Eleanor. He's property." She met his stare, voice steady. "Property with a past that traces back to your own dealings. Those traders you trusted, they brought more than labor." She revealed just enough. Whispers of audits from the city. Questions about origins that could unravel his standing. He rose slowly, pacing to the window where fireflies danced beyond the panes. Silence stretched, broken only by the cicadas' chorus. Eleanor's mind raced. Visions of retaliation, of chains tightening anew. But the colonel slumped into his chair, years etching deeper lines. "You've changed, woman. Or perhaps I never saw you clear." He signed the papers at dawn, gruffly, waving off the overseer with a curt dismissal. Tomas was free, but not without cost. The colonel retreated to his study for days, correspondence flying to lawyers, salvaging what he could. Freedom came quietly. Tomas gathered a small bundle at the river's edge, the bayou's current murmuring approval. Eleanor pressed a pouch into his hand, gold from her dowry, maps to Kinup River. "Go swiftly, the waters hide paths." His eyes, once shadowed, gleamed with resolve. "You gave me more than papers, ma'am, a mirror to fight by." He vanished into the fog, pole slipping silently through the reeds, leaving ripples that faded into the dawn. Eleanor returned to the house transformed. The colonel softened in fragments, meals shared without suspicion, walks where he spoke of old campaigns, regrets veiled in soldier's pride. She managed the estate with newfound steel, hiring overseers who valued output over lashes, turning fields to sustainable yields. Whispers spread beyond the bayou. Other wives took note, quiet shifts rippling through neighboring lands. Thomas's trail led north, letters arriving months later via trusted hands, safe in Ohio, teaching freedmen the letters he'd clung to. Years folded like accordion bellows. The war clouds gathered, but Eleanor's preparations held firm. Crops diversified, alliances forged with Union sympathizers. The colonel passed in his sleep one autumn eve, papers in order, burdens lifted. She stood at his grave, wind tugging her shawl, feeling not grief's weight, but release. Thomas returned once, older, with a family in tow, under cover of night. They spoke by lantern light, sharing stories of paths untaken, truths unearthed. The plantation evolved, fields leased to sharecroppers on fair terms, the big house a haven for those seeking new starts. Eleanor aged gracefully, her library filled with volumes on reform, letters from across the states. The bayou, ever the confidant, carried fewer secrets now, its whispers lighter. In her days, rocking on the veranda, she watched the sun dip low, painting the waters gold. Thomas's grandson, visiting from the city, sat beside her. "You started it all, grandmother," she smiled, hand on his. "We all carry hidden pasts. The brave ones claim them. As the light faded, peace settled deep, a legacy woven from quiet defiance. The cycle broke, not with fanfare, but with persistent steps, one truth at a time. If this story gripped you till, smash that like button. Subscribe for more cinematic tales, share with someone who needs the thrill, and comment your thoughts below. We read everyone.